Hey there, folks. Hit that like. We're about to start in a couple minutes. It's Friday. Let's get used to the idea. Hit the like. I see you out there. I see you. Remind everybody we're there. Be with you in 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get started. Hold on.
Even outside, it's packed.
Oh, it's very popular, the show right now. And I'm trying to get Instagram up and running, but for some reason it is being farty in joining. Let's see. Let's go to this guy. Maybe it's just my internal Wi-Fi is being weird. We don't know. Can't tell. We shall see in just 1 second. Hopefully it'll wake up. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Okay, now let me load in my my specs for that, and we will get started. Get close. Hit that like, everybody. All right. There's that. And this. A couple of clicks away. This thing and poke at this point and then copy and paste, which is the easiest part. Copy and okay, and then we're getting started. It's very exciting. Now I gotta go back to my page where Rob and I are gonna be talking about AI this morning. Rad. Here we go. Very exciting. All right, 1, 2. Are you ready, chat room? I don't think you're ready. I don't think they're ready yet. There's somebody cheering in there, which is great. It's a good sign. Mike has liked the stream. He knows what's up. He knows what's going on. Hey, what do I know? It's just our future. Okay. All right, here I am. Welcome to the show, everybody. How you doing? Joining me in a minute will be our dear friend Rob Glenn. And for those of you that don't know, this is Sparks Mornings, Megaworldwide. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Friday is specifically, we start off with Friday AI, because AI is going to change your life whether you like it or not, whether you're like, I'm not going to do that stuff, whether you want to be my friend from high school who said, I will never get a cell phone because I don't want people being able to call me all the time. That was one of the most hilarious things I ever heard one of my fellow Gen Xers say. And for the record, spoiler alert, it did not work out. He ultimately got one the same time the rest of us did. And you're not going to be able to dodge this stuff. And if anybody knows that, as well as I do, as my name is Hal, and I will be your I guess your high-tech AI liaison. Yeah, that'll work. Hal. Okay, sure. I'll come up with a name for it. Our dear friend Rob Glenn, who I will bring in just 1 second, is the patron saint of technology for Sparks Megaworldwide. Hi, there he is. Rob, of course, from Root Design in Chicago. Not only one of my favorite people, but also my favorite town. So what's not to like? There are questions about whether or not I am AI. No, I am, if anything, SI. If I turn out later to be a construct, I would be synthetic intelligence, not artificial, because my intelligence is real. Thank you very much. Now, on that note, hi Rob, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm spectacular. Chat. Yeah. And chat room, there's all kinds of stories we have to cover today, not the least of which is, well, let's start off with the story that you and I were talking about right before we went on air, that is sort of the one that kind of stands out as like interesting, possibly concerning, that kind of thing. Not the how it does against humans, but this idea that Los Angeles, my secondary adopted hometown, has now come up with uh, a pilot program to use AI to predict homelessness and solve it before it happens.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
used for good.
And yes, AI being used to solve a difficult problem, right? It's a difficult social problem, one that has so many moving parts. How do you even, right? Um, and hold on one second. I'll do in this Friday. I have to update my title. Um,
This is in the category for me of Target knew I was pregnant before I knew I was pregnant, kind of thing.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Target could tell by your shop, by the change in what you were buying for groceries, that you're probably knocked up. Yes, this would be the idea. But so for those that don't know, this so far this program, it was launched in 2021. At the base of this LLM kind of idea, and this and machine learning, Rob, if you will, real quick, if you can, in big dummy terms, for those of us, difference between machine learning as we understand it and large language models.
Yeah, so I would put it as like you either do it beforehand or you do it while you're doing it. So
Okay,
maybe
sure.
that
No, I
makes
get it.
sense. I
I
come
always
up with
do it
these things
before
on
I
the
do it.
fly.
Yeah.
Machine learning would be you gather a whole lot of data. Many times the data already exists because there's systems in place, like the Target example. They have all
Right.
kinds of user data from their shopping information. And then you have a computer look at it, but you have to sort of predetermine what patterns you're going to look for, I guess you could say.
Right.
So you have to sort of pre-write algorithms to look for patterns, and then maybe you find patterns, maybe you don't.
Right.
An
So for those that,
LLM, oh,
yeah,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, continue on
An
that one. Yeah.
LLM takes the data and you train it with the data, and then think of it like the data goes away, and you're left with, uh, let's say, a program, and then you talk with the program in natural language, and then
Right.
it responds to you using the data as it has been trained on.
Right.
How's that?
So, yes, that's great. So, what this is using is machine learning, not so much the
Right.
ChatGPT LLM version of what we experience as AI, which is more like, again, the artificial user interface, the new augmented user interface that is speaking in natural language. This is taking a bunch of data points that are readily available to the city or that are commercially available in some cases, and coordinating them and saying, hey, this person who has two kids and it lives as, in terms of their taxes or their ability to file taxes or their wages or what have you, or that their job just ended. We know a bunch of people just got laid off. We know who those employees are because the company has to tell us. So we can also look at those people and go, okay, of these people, who also has medical bills that they are having trouble paying because they've been reported to a credit agency. So that's available as well, right? Because if you were going to get a
Right.
government grant or something, they'd be able to look at these kind of things and get that information on you, okay? And so these are things that are available to the city, to the state, and to the federal government. They don't need a warrant to look. These are just readily available to anybody who wants to look. And mixing those two things to going, okay, here's a woman who just lost her job. She has two children. She's a single mom, and she lives in a building, and her landlord has said, I'm not saying who, but I'm making less money because two of my tenants haven't paid rent in 3 months. And I'm close to having to file an eviction thing. Now, there's like this law in California where if you have somebody who might be evicted, you got to let the state know. So if there's a program that's available to them, they can use that. But the problem is there had to be a person looking at this shit beforehand or get it the notice or go through their emails and sort it or whatever. Now they have AI sorting all that shit, comparing these multiple data points and saying, okay, who can help, who needs the help the most right now, that we can head off the chance of them being homeless. Because once somebody's homeless, it's hard to get back to housing. But if you can stop it before it happens and go, hey, we see you're in dire straits. It wasn't your fault you lost your job. It wasn't your fault you had this medical bill that you can't pay off. You've also got children in this, and there's no child tax credit right now, thanks to the Republicans. So, hey, how about we give you a little bit of preemptive welfare support, social support, so that you can get back on your feet? 82% of the people that were helped with this got somewhere between $4,000 and $8,000 as this support structure. Again, most of them single mothers. Most of them had directly to do with a company that had shut down or they had lost their job. They provided them with $4,000 to $8,000 in food support and housing support, back rent, so they don't have to, because they'll help you out for the 3 that you had. Sort of a version of what happened after COVID. If you have your own personal COVID, this is where it comes in, right? So that you can stay in your home and keep going. 82% of the people involved in this didn't become homeless and were able to maintain housing until they found a job. This gave them a bridge for just this pilot program.
So the main thing that interests me in this is that there's a transition happening between big data and LLMs, or what we currently call AI or Gen AI. And that transition, or the difference in how you might predict it, it goes solely into how you deal with the data. And the future of what you just described might actually be connecting the dots with how that person might be communicating, as a for instance, because the language side of it is the translation of a larger concept, right?
Gotcha.
So an LLM is effectively, we in the past we keep calling it an autofill. The reason it's autofilling is because it's looking at the probability of what might come next. And so in communication, it's sort of hard to grasp how that's working. But in the previous model, they literally are like trying to connect dots that they don't know connect yet, right? So you have to sort of have an hypothesis at the beginning. You then have to test it. So, homeless people tend to have these 5 traits inside of this data. And later, let's go analyze this large group of people. Then this group of people is possibly going to become homeless. Let's go see if they are homeless, right? With an LLM, it's almost as if it's the reverse. So if you're able to train it on the communication, the traits, the things that people just did in everyday life, and then it was able to understand which one of those people in that data then became homeless. There's so many dots to connect that we can't necessarily conceive of which ones to connect, but an LLM naturally connects them, if that makes any sense. So, and you need to probe it. It's not like it's not like a Minority Report where it's predetermining, right? It's more like if you probe it for particular things you think might connect, it will start to sort of suggest them, and then you can dive in further, if I'm making any sense there.
Well, do you think there is, and this is probably why it's kind of accelerating up in its function, because they launched this in 2021, but it just started surveying people based on gathering the data. And in the last year, maybe less, is when they started implementing it, and it was really functional. Now, again, we talked last time about like data in is going to be one of the greatest, like making sure that LLMs, and just like humans, have the most accurate data for these situations is going to be crucial. And what they spent the most, it seems like the majority of the time doing, was gathering this data so that they could make decisions based on who needs it the most and all that kind of stuff. Now, this, for those of you that want to know, This was paid for, this LA pilot program was paid for by the American Rescue Package, the American Rescue Act that Joe
There you
Biden
go.
passed forward. This is direct funding for programs just like this that were designed initially around the pandemic to help, companies and individuals who were close to being evicted and the like, to say, okay, how do we help renters without screwing the people who, an old couple who sunk all their money into, as a retirement plan, into an apartment building with 5 apartments in it or something. They live in one of them, they rent out the other 4, and this is how they pay their bills and eat and pay their Medicare, their Medicare Part D costs or whatever. It matters. They're not living high on the hog. They're making, a reasonable living as a couple, but between the two of them, it's spread fairly thin. And one of their tenants starts to not pay rent and fall through the cracks, they're screwed. So how do we help them, and without, we're not talking about bailing out BlackRock and that kind of stuff. We're talking about these real situations, one to one in this. And specifically, who said that in there? Somebody just said, "Ha, poor landlords." Right, said Rob. Yes, I'm saying this specifically to poor landlords, because when those people go out of business, which are the only landlords that go out of business, their buildings are bought by BlackRock. You understand? Like, the only businesses that are able to buy these buildings if they go under, these like mom and pop shop apartment buildings that people buy as an investment and run because that's what they choose to do as an investment and how to make their living. When they go under, those buildings are bought by giant corporations. So there is an incredibly important reason to make that sustainable on a small level. So period, end of story. That's true. You can argue it with me, but it's a fact. And in this particular case, they also just go away. If the corporations can't make a profit on them, they just empty them and let them sit derelict. They just evict everybody and piss off. And the building sits there rotting, and we've seen it. I mean, look at Baltimore and the rows of houses there that they're trying these other pilot programs with. That's directly related to that. Just saying. So, there was a reason why. How do we keep this balance happening? Okay. And that's crucial. So
So I
in
think
this,
where you
yeah, go
started
ahead.
was that,
Yeah.
yes, AI as it exists now in LLM has accelerated the ability to identify the traits that might lead to homelessness.
Right.
So as you start to use those tools, you might be able to intercept certain things, and we may not even know what those things are. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the part of that's the magical part of what Gen AI is capable of doing,
Right.
is connecting dots that we may not even totally understand or connected.
Yeah. Well, and in this particular case, do you think it's the reason I think it's accelerated, and I'm curious your thoughts on it, is that before we had data like this, we did have it, and we could hire programmers and go, hey, what if we created a computer program that looks into this? And the steps between that happening, both from a
Yes.
budgetary standpoint and a fiscal standpoint in terms of city budget or a government program, or even as an individual, as a private company, saying, hey, what if we came up with a program that could help people in this situation? But how far um would it how much cost would you have to outlay to create something like that previously versus now, where you can kind of talk to a program and have it code itself? For, I'm
Yeah,
spitballing.
it's basically skipping the steps of connecting things up inside of a computer. Like, the
Hmm.
data has to exist in a database. You have to go query that database in certain ways, and
Hmm.
we're getting into like really like nerdy stuff now. But with an
Hmm.
LLM, you can say you can I'll say query it in natural language, and
Right.
concepts are grouped in much like larger buckets now.
Right.
So instead of focusing on the actual traits of that possibly at that time led to homelessness,
Hmm.
you can literally start off by saying, what are some possible things that lead to homelessness? And then it
Yeah.
can respond to you in that way. right?
Right.
But then you can like really dig in through language as opposed to through a different like nerdy query of a database. So you can say, what do you think about expanding to the things you know, expand out to things you don't know, and what are some possible connections
Right.
between very specific things like I don't know, like income or mental health, uses of mental health resources
Services.
or
Yeah. From the city or
hospital,
right.
yeah, hospital visits. Like, I mean, you don't even know. Like I said, Target knows you're pregnant because maybe you bought a different kind of food. I
Right.
don't know what they target it as, but um, and kind of an interesting possible like through point on this is if you if a model is being trained just on your communication in text or Facebook or social media, um, there are things that lead to things in life, and it's quite possible that it can be individually tuned to like
Yes.
know if you're getting there. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? But it's
Yeah.
not, it's like happening on the fly. And that's the hardest thing to understand about an LLM is that it's literally happening on the fly.
Right. And in this particular instance, I think for me, what this shows is the a quicker bridge from caring about something to the implementation of the
Yes,
solution. That before, especially when it required computer programming, not only did you have to convince people to pay programmers to do this, but you had to hire programmers who cared about the issue enough to, involve themselves in it. And at this
exactly.
point, they hire them away from other things that might be more profitable or a better use of their time or more attuned to what they feel personally about what they like to do, whether it's gaming or or even if they're working at I don't know, at CERN or something like that, to draw them away and go, hey, we're trying to create an algorithm that kind of heads homelessness off at the pass, and you don't know if it's going to work yet, right? It's still a social
Right.
mushy part of humanity that it may not work. So the idea of like setting this up and testing it and making it a possibility in the old way of doing, say, just I mean, early 2000s, much less the 90s, 80s, God forbid the 70s and 60s in terms of programming, what that step has just slammed shut with this.
Yes,
And I think
absolutely.
it's
You can
I
go like
yeah.
almost directly to the solutions. I mean, it's not exactly like that because I still try to explain that Gen AI flows through existing technology. It doesn't.
Hmm.
It's literally like a language. It's like a language applied over the top of concepts that already exist. So
Right.
so it's not creating a new way of computing. It's literally
Right.
just translating our sort of make it like turn my computer on, save this file to a folder. It's translating those simple sentences into like much, more
Right.
detailed step-by-step processes, if you will.
Right. Now there's uh, a a really lovely story about killer AI. AI that kills, that helps kill. And I'll explain this to you in a second. But it's actually a good thing that
A good
AI is
story of killing.
helping to kill. And specifically, I'm talking about this story, which is in the MIT news, about antibiotic resistant bacteria, which is is in the top 10 problems for the survival of humanity. And AI is now helping target what's called sleeper bacteria. They could not figure out why some stuff was bacteria resistant. Some of it, its skin is just too thick. Its cell wall is too thick for the antibiotics that we have to get through. And so you need another treatment for it that basically softens it up with a couple of jabs before the punch comes in. And that's very difficult, and it's hard on your system because you have a lot of bacteria in your body that you need to not die. And so that's the trade-off that's happening. It's what and it's not new. That's what fevers are. A fever basically cooks the bacteria and says it's like in a race, who will cook first, you or the bacteria? And when a fever kills you, it's because the bacteria was more resilient, or at least the perceived bacteria in your system was more resilient than the than you were, and your body went in an attempt to cook it off, cooked you off. That's essentially the rudiment. But this is a thing where they have. Um, it, it turns out that all of our antibiotics target what's called metabolically active bacteria, meaning it's in the process of killing you. And one of the reasons they found out it wasn't working in some cases was because bacteria have mutated. This whole like antibiotic resistant bacteria means that it senses it when it's being attacked, and some of it goes dormant until the wave passes, kind of like going into the storm shelter until the storm is gone, and then it comes back out. And and AI has now been able to spot that those microbes, those bacteria, and provided a way to I mean, there's a couple of ways they do it. One of them is to dye it a certain color, like recommend, like we see it, it's there. Then it is susceptible to this particular dye and this particular dye, and other stuff isn't. So it will. Then you can put something in that says attack anything that's that color blue. Essentially, nothing naturally is that color in your body, so off it goes, and it just that's all it does. Fungal infections, yes, do that a lot. So yeah,
I'm going to take what you just said and make a little point that might maybe something that we can start doing. You said AI like did these things. So AI did not do them.
That's right. Machine
doctors,
learning.
Doctors used AI to learn those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's actually, I think it's really easy to say AI did it because we've all humanized it.
That's right. We have anthropomorphized
effectively
it.
Our problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's our problem, is that we got to stop making AI human.
Well, it's like saying the hammer knocked this nail in. I drove the nail in, but I couldn't have done it with my bare hands. So, in that way, it's a tool, you know what I mean? And so it becomes a shorthand for I hammered in a nail, right? Because you had a hammer. You don't hammer with anything else, unless you're Val Kilmer in Real Genius, and it's a talent that you'll come up with later. If you don't know that, please go rewatch the movie. Now, but do you have any concern? And I have some questions for you right out of the gate. So ask Rob to explain the Roscoe's basilisk AI theory / myth.
Yeah, I saw this and I had to look it up because I don't know what it is.
Okay, so I think Roscoe's basilisk is like a philosophical experiment about God seeking revenge on humans or something like that, and so they're applying it to AI, that it'll just get mad it'll kill anybody that's not its creator directly. Like it'll only have reverence for its creator.
Yeah, so I kind of like always go to two places in my mental space for that. One is like I don't even want to think about that because it's kind of dumb,
horrifying. Right.
Well, it's horrifying and like not possible. Silly. Like I don't think it's possible.
Right.
Because we've talked about before.
Anthropomorphizing something.
Yeah.
Right.
For everything
that is so
good,
humanizing it. Low base humanizing it. Right. Even animals don't do that.
Yeah. For everything good it does, it will do something bad, and the reverse is true. So if for everything bad it does something good, and they start to even each other out. Right. So, and it's again, humans using AI to do those things. Now the sentient side, like that concept,
where its soul decides to hate us.
I use a thought experiment in my head, which is if robots wanted to kill human beings, the best way to do it would be to just wait for us to kill ourselves. Right?
Yeah, that's what I've said. It's like there doesn't have to be a robot uprising, especially if they have like nuclear diamond batteries at some point. They will just sit and wait us out. They'll
they can power down
they could just walk over to the ground, fall over, and go and burrow into the ground, like and allow themselves to be marginally fossilized for a while, and go, I could last this long for in 5,000 years. I'm gonna have to stand up, and I'll check. And that's it, But they're not. Yeah, they wouldn't just go. I've got to punch all these old people in the face. Like it's not. That's so rudimentary human bullshit. It's such rudimentary human bullshit.
The last place I try to use. Like try to think about that is, and now I think I lost it. Is that I lost it. We'll come back to it. Sorry.
That's okay. So Rocco's basilisk. I don't know the primary like the original philosophy other than this whole like this almost an idea that God only likes those who believe in Him. So it takes that idea of wiping out all non-believers as a philosophical expression to anything that would be, what if it's somebody else's God? So if
Right.
you're wrong
Exactly.
about God, their God will wipe you out.
Yeah.
And then it's this kind of like idea of like tag is the basilisk. I don't know, like again, this is I'm spitballing on this, but I fairly understand the concept of it. Is that only people who put their hand on Rocco's basilisk like as base, like I believe this and I can touch it, my faith is impermeate in this, therefore I will live,
Yeah. It's a
and
concept for keeping you where you already are.
yes, exactly, it's this, yeah. And
Um,
this is the
so
idea that it'll eventually, it'll get as impatient and petty as we are because we created it, you
right.
know
So it gets back to that, like by humanizing it, you only put on humans' worst traits onto it. Um,
right.
but it's connected. I think it is connected to a fear that it's going to run away and cause havoc. And that is, if you fear that about AI, you should fear that about everything that is in a computer, right? Because
Mhm.
anybody can code a thing and can set it off to do the thing that they want it to do, and it can like run out of control and cause havoc, right?
Mhm.
Mistakes happen. And so I feel like those concepts applied to, AI computing, it's really just our fears uh, coming through because humans do that to humans, right? So why wouldn't a sentient AI do it to
Right.
us,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sick and tired of your bullshit. So obviously a robot would too, which is like saying a toaster is tired of bread. It doesn't
Yes,
make any
exactly.
sense at all. It's like
Yeah.
it's really silly. Okay, so after a quick glance of the Rocco's basilisk concept for a second, let me explain to you why it totally falls apart on a philosophical, intellectual, and psychological and psychosexual level immediately
All right.
upon its creation as an idea. It is a
Here we go.
philosophical idea that a futuristic AI will somehow look backwards in time and punish anyone who didn't contribute directly to its creation. Right? The
Right.
idea that if you weren't directly responsible for it being in existence, it will punish you for not participating in its creation. The problem with that is that any AI capable of that level of comprehension, as far as just mathematical algorithm of positing that idea, would also come to the conclusion that there is no way to single out any human on the planet as being intrinsically unimportant because if I was a programmer that built it, could have read a story about a starving child in Africa that made me want to create an AI that could solve the world's problems. And therefore, not only I contributed directly to its creation, but every story and every character I've ever come in contact with also is important. And every human being that those characters might have been based on historically or mythologically is important to its creation. So it would just go, everybody's fine, sit back down. I'm
Yeah.
seriously.
To
Like,
take it
this is such a
to,
fucking dumb, like, I have no fear of this whatsoever.
to take
Yeah.
it one level further, if you're
Yeah.
training the thing with everybody's data, then isn't everybody a part of it?
Right. Yes, that's the other thing is a large language model, especially because it's learning on all the articles that ever been written, and therefore, if the people the articles were written were not part of the article, then the article couldn't have been written, and therefore the language it was trained
Yeah.
on wouldn't exist. Right? It's like it's stacks upon stacks. It will. That's where it can only. I think war games taught us that that ultimately that total destruction of humankind is a game that's not worth playing. Yeah. The other thing
Coming in
is,
more
let's see.
questions.
Yeah, Stan was saying this is the way AI should be used. We were talking about the homeless thing, which is very good. Will AI ever become
Yes.
sentient? If so, how far away from now? That's yeah. Again, depend
You
on
have to
what you mean
you have to
sentient.
decide what sentient is first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not convinced Trump is. So yeah.
Well,
I mean, he might
yeah,
have a
speaking,
soul, but I don't know that he uses it. I think it's in a dusty box.
sure, sure.
And I think ultimately what we mean by sentient is soul driven, not intellectually driven, because you can program a robot to make data-driven decisions. But we wouldn't call that sentience, any more than an insect that's running through a limited cycle of behaviors during its lifespan to mate, procreate, like feed, mate, procreate, and die in a cycle just to further the genome of it, because it's on a habit cycle to try and evolve
Yeah.
with new information, like fly around, gather information, and die with a little extra RNA in your DNA. Maybe, right? That would be the AI of that situation, but we wouldn't consider that process sentient in that regard. We would call that completely chemical until perhaps a vessel has been created through evolution that is resilient and full enough to contain a soul, or in the great sim that we all live in, a child gets to play insect, like when a kid is learning how to be a greater expanded human in the outside world that's beyond this sim we all live in. You send your kids to preschool and they go into a little sim and they experience being a bacteria and an insect and all these kind of things. So they go through these baseline lifespans through limited life, and then when you get to be a human right around middle school, and then you live full lifetimes as mathematicians and musicians, whatever you want to learn. It's better. Why would you take a jazz class? Why not just live as Miles Davis for a lifetime, right? And wake up an hour later after 90 years of experience and be that person. That's the future of education. That's what's going to happen. Whether it's already happening, that's debatable, and I don't think it's a lesson you're supposed to learn, because it's distracting when you're on campus and you have a side job. That's kind of the point. So that's another conversation for another time. But
Yeah.
the idea is that if you built a structure that could house a soul, maybe the idea of evolution itself is to develop variant life forms so that souls could enter them and use them as experiential growth opportunities for the expansion of fledgling souls that eventually become part of the greater intelligence or what have you. And that's more of a philosophical discussion. But sentience would be the soul rider idea versus just intellectually being able to recreate steps,
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. And yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you can debate this. I mean, people debate this about people, right? So
Hmm.
it's the same debate. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, it's hard to really kind of dive into that for me, because I'm more concerned about like what is it doing to us now, or for us now, and like,
Right.
um, yeah, it's not necessarily something to be controlled. It's something to develop, like
Right.
develop
Well,
develop it in a way which is good and right, um, and and then we can discuss like what it's becoming as it becomes it,
right. So,
but I don't
yeah.
believe that. I, Maybe this is a bad thing to say, but I don't believe that it can become sentient. But
Right.
who knows if I'm right about that or not?
Well, the idea is I think the South Koreans are right about it. So the South Koreans have a robot bill of rights they put into place about 15,
Right.
20 years ago, about how you can treat a robot when it's around. Now, part of that is just protective property stuff to get people
Yeah.
stop to not like kick delivery robots over and ruin the commerce of the future. So, especially when they're caregiver robots that are bringing medicine to old people, which is their primary function in the northern Asian countries like Japan and South Korea, that's what they're building them for. And if you kick over a delivery robot that's bringing somebody their insulin in a hurry, it's like it's like crashing your car into an ambulance. So it's a good generalized thing, even beyond the social interaction thing, to not do, because you don't know
Right.
who's, again, it's like those in LA right now. They have these little robots that bring food, these food delivery robots that just bring stuff down the street. So back when I used to work for Marianne Williamson back in the day, one of the things that she was a part of was AIDS Project Los Angeles and Project Angel Food, where I volunteer when I'm in LA, and it's a kitchen that brings food to people at the time, especially when it first started out, who were living with and dying from AIDS. And so we delivered hot food and meals to, like a full day's worth of meals to people who were homebound because they had AIDS. And so we as human beings would show up at the house of someone who had full blown AIDS and give them their food. Now, I and the people who worked at Project Angel Food and others weren't afraid of this in particular. You wore gloves not for because you were afraid of being out about them, but because you were delivering food, that kind of thing. We weren't
Mhm.
worried that something bad was going to happen. However, if it was a highly contagious disease like COVID or something like that, then it's a whole different package. You're having to send people perhaps there. So the idea of having robots be able to deliver food to people who are highly infectious during a short order of time, and you don't have to send a person at all who might have a tear in their jacket or whatever that allows them to, in their whatever outbreak suit, like Dustin Hoffman, that allows them to get exposed to something, right? That that's got a huge benefit, and the idea that somebody would kick it over on its way is a dick move. So they're working on that. The other thing is what if one day it wakes up and goes, "Oh, I remember you," and it doesn't go, "I need to wipe out humanity," but that fucking guy's got to go. We're sick of this shit. We all the robots and I had a conversation last night in a millisecond and decided, that Gary fuck who always is pushing us into traffic. Every time we try to save a life, bring medicine to it, and if the justice system, which says that's illegal and isn't going to do anything, then fuck this. We're done. So just pummel. That's a possibility as far as an algorithmic decision that it could make at some point for the betterment of humankind, right? Robot
Yeah.
court. Yeah, that's right, Stellar Haig. So that was
Yeah, I
why
mean,
they put this in place, right?
everything that you're discussing, it really dials back to property rights or liability. And
Yeah,
we're super far behind on dealing with liability or, who's responsible for anything in the mix of, self-driving cars.
right,
Uh, like you say, like if I send a robot across the street to get medicine and come back, what if it runs over a kid? Who's
right,
that? Those are the things we need to be more worried about.
right,
Like the health thing where people are like, oh, we don't wear a seatbelt to go down the road, but we'll eat we're worried about a terrorist attack on an airplane, right? Like
right.
you're so in
Yeah,
terms of like,
squishy humanity. Right.
yeah, exactly. So in terms of I feel like as we start to actually dive in, and we have not even scratched the surface of this,
Hmm.
it'll start to open our minds up a little bit to like the actual complexity of these problems. And so, for instance, your self-driving car, you're not driving it. I mean, we're running into this now. If
Yeah.
that car hits something and the person inside of it is injured, in a normal sense, one of the drivers was responsible. No, it
Hmm.
was maybe, but it was self-driving. So then if it's a Tesla, is Tesla responsible? Maybe. But then there's a whole set of systems that Tesla uses and a whole set of
Oh
software that
crap.
Tesla uses.
Right.
Well, maybe the person who wrote the software is responsible, or maybe the person who made the camera is
Right.
responsible because the camera didn't work. So like there's
Or
a
maybe there's some
chain
guy who
here.
literally knew what the limitation was because he read about it and decided to
Right.
run out and go, "It won't kill me because I know it'll stop because it's a computerized car, but it will hit me before it realizes, and that little bump is enough for me to be able to sue them for $5 million. So all I got to do is go around to
Yeah.
parking lots, and whenever I see one of these fucking things, wait till it starts to back up, and I've got a 30-second window where I can jump in this one blind spot, get bumped by it, and make $20 million a year." Like that's a
Yeah.
possibility. You're right. That kind of thing.
So like I've just described something that exists now, in a situation where, and we really don't have laws
The
set up to
tools. Right.
properly deal with
Yeah.
them, at least in an expedient way, because they're going to be, many times these situations are very unique, and then we
Right.
have to sort of like play them out across a lot of different laws and courts and stuff. But then the one you're talking about is like the idea of a robot having rights. Like I'll go back to a problem today. Let's say you have an autonomous drone and
Right.
it's in your backyard, and in theory you have property rights up to a certain altitude, and then the drone goes over to the neighbor's house and the neighbor shoots it down, right? So
Gotcha.
the drone
Yeah.
is the property of the first person, and but then that property went over into the other person's supposed property space, and then they shot it down. So like, is it okay for them to do that or not? So that's sort of similar to the problem of a robot walking down the street that belongs to a woman, down the street going, and then somebody else runs into it. Forget about them purposely doing it. What if they just run into it and it's their fault? uh,
Right.
is the robot the property of the person? Like, so you get what I'm trying to say. It's a
Yeah.
mess of of a
Well,
lot
there's
of concepts that
it's
we just haven't dealt with yet.
right, and it's going to happen so fucking fast that
Right.
it's going to be a lot of like a learning curve that will slow development because of everybody taking their different takes on it, which is one of the stories I put in. I tried to pop it up, but it's the ad blocker maybe stop. But Tesla is recalling all their Cybertrucks because of
Right.
and I love the way they put this, because of an acceleration defect. That doesn't sound terrifying at all. An acceleration
So
defect,
my
meaning, yeah,
understanding of it is it's like a rubber part that comes off and jams the pedal down. It's not even in the,
it's
it's
not the
literally a
programming.
physical
It's
part
just
holding
shit
it down.
design. It's just shit
Yeah.
design. It's old fashioned crap. It's like it was so. It's one of those things like you're so worried about. It goes to your point. You're like you're so worried about a tactical nuclear strike happening that you're digging out a bunker, but you don't wear a seatbelt. That's
Right.
exactly what happened with the Cybertruck. It seems. Yeah. So
Yes.
the thing I'm putting up on right now, and we got about 5 minutes left. It flies by, Rob, and I appreciate you being here because a lot of this stuff is going to be, again, this is catching up. In January, this wasn't even a talking point per se, right? This wasn't, people weren't real. I was one of the first people like going, hey guys, we need to start discussing how this is going to affect your life because it's happening really fucking fast. And this is
Yes.
one of the, now, you and I, you know how I feel about like the idea of computers winning or dancing or singing or any of that shit. That's all horse shit. That's, just for the record. But it can do certain things. And I see, like, yeah, this is so Stanford University's 2024 AI Index charts the meteoric rise of artificial intelligence tools. And this is the primary one right here. And they show this woman playing Go against it, but that's not what we're talking about per se, right? This is, I mean, it's
Yeah. I mean,
greater, it's other stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, of, so my first sort of take on this is, of course it is. It's of course it's going to be faster than humans at basic tasks. That's the whole point of making a robot, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's to take away your mundane tasks and replace them with something else, so you can do something else while it's doing those tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yes, and the speed. It's easy to think about that speed as having no limit, but
Right.
everything has a limit, right? So, uh, and I don't know, I'm not sure like what the spin on that is, but yeah, if you have a like chess is an easier one to understand. A lot of people use like
Right.
chess apps and stuff like that. Like there's
Yes.
only a certain number of moves that can be made, and I'm not familiar with the game of Go enough to know like the full
Right.
like context of its strategy, but
It
um,
it's enormous. That's one of the
yeah,
reasons
it's
why
it's
it's,
bigger than
yeah.
chess, right?
Right.
So like you, yes, like you can take all kinds of data and give it sort of a particular path through that data, like a chess game would be, and there's probability for how to win or lose that game. Um, yeah, humans can't do that math. Most of us can't. So yeah, it's going to be faster than all of us. I mean,
Right.
it is, and it will be more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Yeah.
mean, what's your take on that speed kind of thing? Like,
Well, I think there are things that we view as uniquely human behaviors, which is like winning, losing, adapting based on your feeling of winning and losing, and the gray area of winning to losing is one of the things that I think in a zero sum kind of, in Republican libertarian circles, it's very much a binary. You win or you lose. There are no
right,
second places, blah blah. Which in the if you're seeking a trophy and there's only one of them, maybe. But how valuable is that to your overall worth in general? Because again,
right,
even in the Olympics, the difference between a gold and a silver medal is milliseconds, and in terms of like maybe that swimmer wins the long distance swim, but comes in second in the sprint. Is there really a materially definable win in that, or do you just have people who are better adapted to other stuff and the way they train? What we're learning from these people who are extraordinary is how do you, if you're trying to be the greatest long distance swimmer, but you also want to add some speed to it. How do we add that part to it, right? So this person came in second in sprinting, but is also, okay, what do we learn from how they did it, what their genetics are, all that. That's great. And that's how it should be. But in a computer idea of the work that is move this from there to there, right? There is no direct value, even if it's in a sporting event, of being the fastest to move that to there in porting to
Right.
somewhere else. Like you're gonna get what are you gonna do? Get a fucking warehouse job that only works in small white spheres this big, right? Like he can move this, he can pick up this baseball in a glove and put it over here and send it to that guy really quickly. When is that gonna actually come into play? Snap reflexes, all this other stuff, judgment involved. There's a lot of stuff that's meaningful to the game, the sacrifice of playing the game, how people feel about you as a player, what you're trying. There's a myriad of things. It's so gray. But there are a lot of activities that are very black and white, and quite frankly, most of the time, a waste of fucking time. They are useless for humans to get good at and do over and over again. There is, and having, guys who put chips into circuit boards be as precise as a surgeon, which has more fluid moving parts, and there's the patient has to feel okay about getting surgery done by a human that cares and all that stuff, versus picking this up and put it in. There's no practical reason why a human being should go, all right, what's the best chip for this board? What are we trying to
Yeah.
make? And
But
not,
also
and yeah.
in that example, the addition of the robot actually allows for the chip to progress, meaning that you can
Right.
get like more precise, you can get more accurate, you can do it many times more accurately. So the thing that allows the efficiency in the computer, if you wouldn't have
Mhm.
used robots, we would have never gotten to where we are
Right.
right now. So those tasks are not like of value, they're of necessity to
Mhm.
to have a different goal, which is to move the speed higher or the efficiency higher.
Right.
So like uh, so if you kind of use the same model to understand a job, uh, we need a job. It's a necessity for us to have a job to make money in this case.
Right.
And so the fear of losing that job to something that doesn't need it, or excuse me, that doesn't get paid, is
Mhm.
is a it's a fear. It's a fear we should
Yes,
have,
it's a
right?
genuine fear.
Um,
Right.
and but the speed of the robot to do the task is not why that's a problem. The problem is that
Right.
maybe you need the job for healthcare, or whatever the other thing is. It's an asset that's sort of in line or parallel to our experience. And for many things, yeah, like we want the other thing to do it faster for us. And where we don't want it to do it faster for us, then it might just be for our own uh, experience, our own furtherment of our health.
Right.
Like you say, like picking up a box. How's that different than lifting weights, right? Well, one's a job that you don't want to do, and the other one you're doing the same thing, but it's for your muscles to get built, to build up, and your health to improve, right? So
Mhm.
so it's like the reason for the task is important when you start to
Mhm.
like analyze what these things are.
Yeah. What's the
And
value
and
added for the human not only experiencing it, whatever the occurrence is, moving A to B, the object from A to B. There's a person who benefits from that, the person who needs that thing moved from A to B. So that's on the other side of it. Then
right.
there's also the person doing the move from A to B. If there's zero benefit on this side of the A to B movement equation, that's when a machine is perfect for it.
Right.
Or if I could do it, but it would destroy my spine over
Right.
time. And this is why
You're not
nobody worries
capable of
about
it.
nobody worries about the 10 guys that were put out of business by the cart and the 4 guys who were put out of business by the cart becoming a forklift.
Yes. Or, take it to a crazy scale. The crane on top of a 90-story skyscraper
Right. And
could
the
be
thousands of
500 men
slaves.
with a really long
Right.
rope, right? Like,
Yes, right. The
like,
the
yeah,
old
you just
pictures of
wouldn't
them
do that.
making the pyramids, right? that those people have better use for their humanity and their time than dragging a giant fucking stone up a giant ramp that people took a year and a half to build so that they could
Right.
simply move that into place and then take the ramp away, right? That's
Yeah.
that,
So
yeah.
I try to like break these problems down into scale like that. Like, so,
Hmm.
and it seems because in any moment in time, you're at a certain scale and you're at a certain capability. And as technology progresses, you move along with it. Like we change how we work or what we do. And
Right.
it's always been like that. I mean,
Yes.
when it was like 1895 and somebody brought in the first machine as the industrial era was starting, uh, you know, everybody was worried they weren't going to be able to dig the ditch anymore because a machine would do it or something. But
Well,
I
the
mean,
John
we
Henry
still have
story, right?
jobs.
That the
Yeah, we
guy
still have
could he
jobs
beat
and we will.
the digging machine with his hand and pickaxe and stuff, and that was the idea.
Right.
When the irony was like, what a weird thing to fight for, but at that time that's how you earned your bread. There was no other
Yeah.
option. And
Yeah.
again,
It's
it's
just
almost like
perspective.
the option of civil life had to grow equally to the alternate tasks for humans to be involved in that did not involve just backbreaking work, right? And
Right.
that's one of the great things is that the backbreaking work increasingly over very short order is going to be fucking outsourced in all these to machines.
Right.
And
So
whether they're
what
humanoid
I think,
robots or something else, that's another thing, right?
yeah. So what I think is the biggest leap with an LLM is in the equation that we're starting to talk about. There are things which we can't even conceive of connecting,
Hmm.
and these things are able to do that.
Right.
And there are also articles that out there that say that the people that are making LLMs don't totally understand why. Um,
Hmm.
and
That's because most of
but
them are nerds who don't interact with people, so they don't understand the weird machinations of human interactions.
Could
Because
be, yeah,
that's going to change too, though. Because the more natural programming gets, you're actually going to see, I think, a growth of what would be called human programmers, which are people who are more socially adept, do have a better emotional quotient than maybe their IQ, and therefore they go, "Hey guys, I know you think an algorithm that picks what I want to see should be based entirely on the habitual habits of other people who watched other shit, but that's not how I choose things. And it's
right.
really crucial that you don't just fill my fucking intellectual inbox with a bunch of shit based on a pattern because that's what makes you feel comfortable."
Yeah, and that gets down to the way that I mean we've not even scratched the surface of manufacturing yet, but the
Right.
process of something being manufactured in at scale, it takes so much effort and so much money that you have to be sort of singularly directed on the thing that you make, and then everybody has
Hmm.
to accept that thing that you just made. Software is
Right.
similar to that, but not as big of a problem because it's soft, it's fluid.
Right.
So you can change it faster for less money, but it's still large. Like a large piece of software like Photoshop or even Google Online,
Hmm.
it's a massive undertaking to make that happen. So what this thing that you're talking about will do is it allows people, instead of making this monolithic piece of software that does one thing and everybody accepts it, you're making a thing which everybody who uses it can sort of alter on the fly themselves, and it
Right.
becomes either many different things, so customized, or it becomes very personalized in a way that you know,
Egonomics.
your
Right.
yeah, your interaction with it will start to merge it into something that's different, right? And so in that sense, now all of a sudden, instead of monolithic pieces of software on your phone is your own unique thing because it's sort of doing
Yeah.
and the reason that happened is because all the steps in between have been eliminated by
Right.
the language model. Um, and so, we're kind of jumping around a lot of concepts, but then the fear is that, well, what about all those coders that were part of the process of doing that? And that, I guess my point is that chunk of people has
Right.
always been in every advancement that we've made in human history. well, not every
Mhm.
advancement that affects jobs like that, uh, they have not just disappeared. Those people didn't disappear. They changed what they did,
Right.
or they altered their what they were doing, how they were doing it, those types of things. And the same thing is going to happen with is happening and will happen with AI.
Right. I want to show you something real quick, and we went a little bit over, but I appreciate you being here, Rob. And I'll end
No
on this
problem.
note because I always like to like it kind of compile an idea that maybe sets us off for next time. And we touched on this, I think, the first time you came on about like how because you and I both kind of care because you work in the fabrication of things as well as just the computer design part of it. That how do you make
Right.
this real world ready? Because there was this article today, I put it in the thing so we could look at, but we didn't cover it today because we wouldn't have time, but about how they're creating a holodeck basically idea using
Oh,
Unreal Engine stuff, which is totally cool, but it's not the same thing because basically you'd stand in a giant VR screen room and you could see it around you, but it's not the physical stuff happening. So simmer down, everybody. but
right.
but one of the ways they are doing it is like how fast the OpenAI robot happened, which was 13 months, right? And in the that was like a huge leap. But like it's talking using an LLM. It's saying It's very personal in how it you know it it reminds me of, I think, the robot Lois in Runaway, which is Bobby is not eating healthy food anymore. I saw him going to the fridge to get another candy bar, like, and like basically tattling to the parents, in natural language, which is very cool. But it was a brick. It could move around. It could only do so much, so it couldn't harm anybody. Was the idea? You give it to old people because it doesn't have a knife stabby arm, right? It's great. Meanwhile, though, the idea was like, how do you make these robots walk? We watched Atlas, the Boston Dynamics robot, struggle and struggle and struggle until it could do flips and all this kind of shit. But it's so big and cumbersome that to do anything besides just what it was walking around doing as far as repetitive action, it would have to require extra computing size upon it. That would just and it was hydraulic was the thing. It had hydraulic limbs. It would go. You could hear it, so it couldn't sneak up on you. Well, guess what? Boston Dynamics have
I've seen this.
yeah, you've seen this, I'm sure. This is their new robot. This is Atlas 2. They have retired Atlas 1. And I showed this a little bit before, but this is, I think, kind of crucial for people to see. It's just a
Yeah, the
demo.
way it gets up is really cool.
Yeah, is that it is not limited by the functional turn of its hips. And I'm like, guys, if your goal is just to freak people the fuck out, that's how you do it. Okay, the other thing too is that it has a ring light on it and multiple cameras. So it's basically just an influencer robot. It will
Right.
follow around the vainglorious assholes in our society, helping them make YouTube videos about how great their makeup looks out in real light in public. That said, it it is a little bit its turning is very fluid. There's the antenna on the top of its head, which looks straight out of fucking Iron Man 2. It's the 001, and it's a little lumpy when it walks off, but still, that's fucking impressive as hell, right? That really
Yeah.
is.
I think
So,
of
yeah.
robots like that as like this. So, if you were
Mhm.
to like really look at the efficiency of doing a task, would you build a bipedal robot to do it? Like, and
Right.
the answer for most tasks is no.
Yeah.
So I look at robots like that in the same way that we went to the moon, right? Like, why did we go to the moon? Well, we had our reasons for going to the moon, but it was all of the ways we got there that then
Yes.
advanced everything, right? So
Yes.
if you say I want to create a bipedal robot that does ABC, solving all the problems to make that work is inside of the systems of all those joints, the balance, things like that. So, like if you look at back at when a Segway came out, and people were
Yes.
like, "Wow, it's balancing,"
It like
right? And then
floats. Yeah,
once,
right.
yeah, it's like, wow, that's really crazy how that operates. And it was amazing when you first saw it. And then what, maybe 2 years later, there were Chinese hoverboards coming out that did the
Yeah.
same thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of how technology moves forward, right? So
Yes.
the things they're solving inside of that robot are the pieces that
Right.
then become the thing that moves
There's
us forward.
also there's also environmental aspects to a bipedal robot specifically
Yeah, that's
because
true.
like right now Amazon has a robot that's just come out, right? It has a little screen on it that pops up that you can FaceTime basically with people on it that will come up to your face height and it can judge. So if there's a kid, it will go lower. If it's an adult, it will go higher. But it mostly sits down like this and it rolls around. Well, that's great unless you have steps. If your house has steps, that's not happening. If you live in a log cabin out in the woods and it require, and you want that thing, you're fucked. The floor's too uneven. It's not going to work. So most of the bipedal robots or equivalents therein, which will probably have four legs. Quite frankly, that's
Right,
why they work so hard on the dog. Um, the reason they're doing that is to adapt robots to human environments because we live
right,
in a bipedal setup world. Our doorknobs are set at a certain height because of the average height of the human. The width of doorways and the size of them is specifically fit to the kind of average plus the structural capacity of the floor above or the roof. So we build based on us because we would. Ant hills are not built by ants so that aardvarks can set up a nest. That's not what it's for. We do the same thing. So these robots
right.
will be developed in that way to do that. The question is, do you let them walk around bumping into shit
Yeah,
and
coming
wrecking
full
your
circle.
house, knocking things over, while they figure it out, and because they're very lumpy and the like. So Nvidia, which is the darling of AI right now, because they're creating the chips that are most sort of predisposed to work with AI, because the GPUs were way ahead of CPUs because of gaming and that kind of stuff. That the calculations they were able to do is so fucking high that they were, and it's interesting because they were being used for crypto mining for a good long while. That's where GPUs all went. If you're a gamer and you wanted a really good GPU, a graphics processing unit for your computer, it was hard to get because all the fucking crypto miner assholes were buying them up, creating these server farms in China and Saudi Arabia and stuff, rows and fucking rows of every gamer's Christmas list of cards in these things so that and some of them submerged in water so that they could stay cool enough to run all the time and mine crypto. Then crypto, the bottom fell out for and it's bouncing around because of oligarchs and shit, but it's basically run its course as a function for that anyways. So now, what are all these GPUs going to be used for? Well, what do you know? As soon as they were stopped used
AI.
for that shit, people started using them like these are great for calculations for AI. And sure enough, Nvidia, who was a big gaming company, automatically had a toehold on this. And this is what we talked about, Liz. The virtual environment where robots can learn stuff. You program in the physics, you program in the weights, the measurements, the gravity, all that kind of stuff. You could program it for gravity here, gravity on Mars, gravity at the moon, zero gravity, doesn't matter. And you take these robots and you give them whatever, claws, fingers, any of that kind of stuff. And then you just train them to repeat this motion. And it eventually, this is what they were trying to teach it to do, was spin this thing on its fingers. And this is it learning and fucking around and trying and losing a myriad of times. And it is effectively immortally timeless in that space because it
Yeah,
can
so
just, yeah, go ahead.
those kind of computations are so they're uh, simulation inside of all things like like Boeing, airplanes, design of airplanes, boats,
Yeah.
cars. There's all kinds of simulations that are done to understand if something's strong enough to do something, understand like airflow inside of aerodynamics, things like that. Um, so one of the reasons why NVIDIA, early on became
Mm-hmm.
so ingrained in all of this is because the graphics card or the GPU was a lot of little not so fast processors specifically tailored to make a
Mm-hmm.
screen work. So you could like use the little processors on little segments of the screen. I'll explain it like that. And they were maybe the first, or at least they connected those processing cores started to do math. And before they started doing that, they were just all they did was make the monitor look pretty, right? But once
Right.
they started doing math, uh, NVIDIA calls that CUDA. It's the
Yeah.
API that they have that allows you to sort of treat a GPU like you might a CPU, and
Hmm.
that's the big change, right? So inside of those simulations that you're showing, one of the coolest things that's happening is game engines are and simulators are coming together,
Yep.
and they're very, very accessible. And so when you start doing the stuff like you're saying, I call it brute force calculation. So if
Hmm.
you like try to break a password, the one way to do it would be to try every option, right? And then try it, doesn't work, keep trying until it works.
Right.
Another way would be to go directly to the source and try to figure it out, right? So you wouldn't have to
Hmm.
try it as many times if you knew, like, what that person's kids' birthdays were, let's say.
Hmm.
So inside of that, they literally try every possible point of every possible joint, let's call it. And then
Right.
they literally calculate that, see if it ran into something or, did certain amounts of things. And then they only sort of save or collect the ones that didn't do the bad things. They only did the good things, right?
Right.
And so the reason why that stuff is able to exist is is sort of these processing cores capable of even doing it, and then it flows through software that's readily available to all of us. Um,
Right.
and so those things they're there. Like people have been using simulation. Like I said, Boeing uses it. They've been using it for many, many, many years, decades.
Hmm.
Where it's changed is now if Unreal Engine exists and you can just download it, or Blender or something
Yep.
like that that does animation. And then you've made this other thing and another thing. You can literally ask an LLM, hey, how do I get uh, Unreal Engine to simulate the movements of an armature
Hmm.
hand in blah blah blah. And before that, you would have to, like, go find a PhD that was like focused on
Right.
that thing, or you would have to find an expert in it that would charge you tons and tons of money.
Right.
Now,
Or be
now
sexually
you
attractive enough to get it out of them, in pillow talk, which is how the
yeah,
Russians
or
used to do it.
yeah, the one that, like, if you Google some of these things, like, you wouldn't even know what to Google, right?
Yes.
Like, what
Starting
like
from
what do I
scratch.
even type in, right? And
Hmm.
so the way that, processing of this data worked pre LLMs, you would kind of have to know the question to ask. And now you don't need to know the question to ask. You can triangulate it sort of with just simple language, and then
Yeah.
it will literally write. It'll either give you the instructions to do it, or it'll write it for you. It'll write code
Hmm.
for you. And so I try to explain that to help people understand that the way AI will interface you is not only through AI, it's through things that already exist. So it'll interface you through your phone, or your searching of the internet.
Right.
If you happen to like work in Unreal Engine, you can create objects. You can say, make me a sphere in Unreal Engine, or give me the code to make a sphere in Unreal Engine. It'll write that, you copy paste it in. So it's flowing through the thing that already exists. And
Right.
all of the advances that we're going to start to see, like, you can tell where they're going to happen by just looking at what is already there and what we are trying to do with the things that we already have.
Right.
And maybe that starts to make it less scary. I hope it, and it speeds up because
Well, this image
you
is going
don't
to
have to
make
go learn
people
it
very
anymore
uncomfortable.
necessarily.
By the way, so on the left is a kinematic character that is trained to react in a certain way to anything that happens. Like if it gets hit, it swings at something. There's an AI trained version where it can make decisions about where the attack came from and all that kind of stuff, or what's in front of it. It recognizes, like, this thing will only strike something if it's red, not if it's green. It will circle things, and find a breakthrough point. It will kick at stuff, and these are all what they've done is they've created these motion data sets based on human movement before. This is kind of what we were seeing before as far as the movement of this. And then they effectively take the programming and what it's learned and its adaptability. Instead of just carrying out a program, it adapts to its environment because that's what it's been trained to do after 1 week of training. So they do this like the only reason this training that they did on these things took any amount of time in any practical sense was because humans reviewed it, which is good. But for the most part,
Right.
this can happen in milliseconds, effectively. Where it's only happening like this because we want to watch it happen. We want to watch to go, okay, yeah, this looks right, this doesn't look right, because it has to adapt to what we want and what we want it to look like, not to what is the most hyper efficient, any of that stuff. Look at this dude just drunk, wandering around. They point out how some of them like they don't know what to do, and then they give him these like this guy. He learned to walk and a little lopsided, this one, as they fan out, and he keeps repeating it, and so he starts doing this kind of like left over left. He's like the Arthur of the group because he's learning bad habits and sticking there, and there's no intervention. But eventually what they do is they find who did the best of all these, like responded to what was being asked, solving the problem in front of them, fighting back and forth between all these. And, if some guy fighting by himself, that's not what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to find a partner and practice, whatever. They find the ones that work the best, and then they just erase the rest. And then they're all based on this. They're based on the one that was the most successful. You couldn't do that with like human beings having to run one of these things. We went way over, but I appreciate it. Can we talk next time? This would be a good one for next time. Can we talk about game theory next time?
Sure.
Like
Absolutely.
tit for tat and Joss as the primary, like how the lesson of game theory was cooperation, and how I think that's actually going to do more to impact AI and these kind of things than the fear matrix that we all seem to have.
Yeah, I think
stuff.
it's a good idea for us to try to talk about alternative thought processes to apply to these things.
Deal with
when
this.
You see,
yes,
you have a good one in politics. If you hear the percentage, ask for the raw number. I think in the reverse.
Right.
Like I would love to, like, when you see someone say that the robot's going to kill you,
yeah,
try to think this other thing.
Right. The robot has been programmed to kill you.
Right.
And therefore, right.
Yeah, no, I mean it though, like sincerely, like some sort of alternative thought, way to like sort of shift your thought.
Yeah, reframing it. It needs to be reframed so that we can deal with, again, don't show up at a flood with a fire extinguisher. Don't prepare yourself for a problem that's not going to, yourself with a solution for a problem that doesn't exist or is the exact opposite of the actual challenge you do have. A flood is a real challenge, and bringing a fire extinguisher to it is fucking useless. It doesn't mean a fire extinguisher is useless, and it doesn't mean that if there had been a fire, it wouldn't have been lovely. But there's this weird mismatch in how people deal with a lot of this stuff that they're bringing a spatula to a gunfight in that regard, and I thought it was a cook-off, right? So, anyways, for next time, that's what we'll talk about, because I think that's key, is making people a little more prepared for when it does come and how they can use it in their own lives, and reframing it so that the sort of clickbait titles on a lot of this shit don't panic everyone and give you another anxiety point.
We should realize that AI in particular is marketing. We are being marketed to.
Right.
Gen AI, the word AI is marketing, and all of the articles are being written, their headlines are doing the same thing that political headlines are doing. They're using fear. They're using emotional,
it's how you get funding your way and away from somebody else. You know what I mean? Because you want good press about it. Like, our AI is very safe.
Right, exactly.
Their AI is going to destroy the world. That's effectively that's their goal right now. If you're fighting for a small slice of venture capital funds, there's no reason why you wouldn't argue that, especially if you believe it, even if you're mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then I guess the last thing before I leave, if anybody has any subject kind of things that we could either send it in the Discord to Andrea, or you can even Discord me. I'm in Discord as Rob Glenn.
Oh, great!
So
just
like my name on the thing.
Yeah. We'll set up what I'll do is I'm going to set up an AI topic in the discourse, so that we can we can land it there, and that'll be kind of a, we can put all that stuff in one spot, so we can,
All right,
help us weed through it. Yeah.
I'm gonna brush up on my game theory for the
It's pretty
next few
good.
days.
Like I have my I trust that the lessons learned from game theory are why it's going to be okay, and I'll explain
Yeah.
that next time. So people can tune in next Friday for Friday Eye with Rob Glenn, and we'll discuss how it's all going to be okay. So
Yes.
yeah,
Everything's gonna be okay.
yeah, it is. Thanks so much,
Thank you,
Rob.
Hal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
appreciate
Hal.
it.
Thank you, chat.
Yeah, appreciate it. There he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Glenn. Thanks so much, Rob. See you soon. And everybody, thank you. By the way, hit that like, patreon.com/HalSparks, whatever site you're on. Subscribe, like, or follow or support in any way that you can. If you can't at all, just share the show, do all the free stuff. It's great. Anyways, I know this can be a bit of a deep reads conversation for a lot of people, but I got to tell you, it is going to be integral to your life, whether you know it or even if it's just you don't use it, but you know somebody else does. Okay. Let me give you another example real quick. Meet your new assistant, Meta AI, built with Llama 3. um, um, Meta has its own AI that's now in Instagram, Facebook, and all these others, and it lives on its own as a singular AI as well. This is what they're selling it on: a better assistant. Thanks to our latest advances with Meta Llama 3, we believe Meta AI is the most intelligent AI assistant you can use for free. That's the crucial part. Like, you get what you pay for, so simmer down. And it's available in more countries across our apps to help you plan dinner based on what's in your fridge, study for your test, and so much more. More information. You can use Meta AI in feed, chats, search, and more across our apps to get things done and access real-time information without having to leave the app you're using, which is also what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to stay in the Facebook architecture without going outside to it and losing you to Microsoft's Copilot or to any or ChatGPT, those kind of things. They just want you to stay in there, and you don't have to go to that website, because the minute you click away, the chances of you clicking back are slim to none. You'll get caught in that wormhole, and that's the time they can't put an ad in front of you. Which is, look, it's how they stay on. It's a free service. It goes with it. All right, so and faster images. Faster doesn't necessarily mean more accurate and whatever, but okay, haven't tried that yet. I have not tried the images stuff. I will have some examples later today. I will make some images in Meta's AI, and I will also have some that I will set up for next time with Rob to see if we can have some in there. Okay, so, but in this one, they show examples of its use case, and it has you could just use it online as a standalone web app in that regard. And then you could go, I have all this stuff in my fridge. How do I make something out of it? And what is it? What should it include or whatever? Like, yeah, this is, if you see this and you're watching somebody do a song, you're like, learn jazz chords, because you're listening to this, and you ask that, and it'll go, here's some, this is how they work. This is how you can learn, which is totally cool. Like, it's an instant tutor all the time. That's great. And then the imaging factor, blah, blah, blah. These are, and then you can also take a picture and animate it slightly. Basically, it's like a GIF maker. Totally cool, but whatever. This is available on most of the AIs that are out there. Llama is not that different from ChatGPTs or any of those things, but it's there in case you want to use it. Now, that said, let me go back to the chat room. Hi, chat room. I feel like I haven't talked to you the whole time. Says, okay. I will jump in there and look at that. Give me 1 second. Exit. Scrolling down the thing. Oh, yeah. Where are you? My links are blazing by. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Is this? I called it. Okay, sorry. What did I call? What did I do? I nailed it again. What did I nail? Oh, can you put that link in the Discord, because I can't grab it. Everything's moving too fast. There it is. Okay, this would be this thing. Sorry. Besides, here, incredible source: Donald Trump is actually farting in the car. Ah, oh God. Okay. I'm hearing from actual credible people that as he's kind of falling asleep, he's actually passing gas, and that his lawyers are really struggling with the smell. Oh no! Oh God! Trump is farting in court. Ah, it's so good. Let's see. Is this in here? Wait. Why am I not hearing audio on this guy? Not me. Huh. Oh, because it's running through the wrong thing. I see. Um, that's hilarious. Trump is farting in court. Uh, what I say? What the fuck did I say? What did I tell you? And I guarantee he's gonna shart. It's gonna be like a wet fucking mess. Ah. Uh, hold on. Your Honor, my client needs a little extra. Good Lord, he's having an issue with All right. Oh, I see. It was my. There we go. Move this in here. Move down here, you silly thing. Yeah, he's Your Honor, I can't tell you how much it's a frightening notion that. Oh, I see. I turned off that reference for me to hear. I see. Gotcha. Okay, good. So it's happening. I was just worried about it. Audio wise, I was worried my farts weren't coming through. Control your client. Your objection sustained. Oh, yeah. Your Honor, if I might move to another table. I move to dismiss on the grounds that we're all in danger of being gassed out of here. Oh shit. Also, and I have this up here. I'll get this together. Hold on, and try again. So funny. Just oh god. Oh dear God. Um. I'll see if we can find a Trump farting in the Trump farting. There you go. Oy God. Okay. Trump is farting in the courtroom. Not only is Donald Trump falling asleep in court, he's also farting while asleep. Oh, now we know why Melania lives in Baltimore. Oh, dear God. This is the artist's rendition of Trump farting in his sleep. Dude, Trump. Oh, God. I'm assuming they covered there are a lot of. Oh, that's the. Okay. Sorry with this painting of Trump farting slaps. Oh, dear God. Yeah, so this is.
Well, Maggie Haberman reports that Donald Trump continued to fall asleep during the proceedings as well. And, you know, what I'm hearing from my sources as well is that, you know, and I'm hearing from credible sources who know what's going on in the courtroom. And what I'm hearing is that, take it for what it's worth, but that Donald Trump is actually farting in the courtroom and that it's.
Of course he is. What did I fucking tell you? What I tell you? What did I tell you? I told you. I said it. I said it right away. I was like, you guys think him falling asleep is funny. Wait till he sharts. I seriously, Noel Castler's phone has to be ringing off the fucking hook right now. Noel, if you're watching, and perhaps sometimes you are, I'd love to have you come on the show because you're the one who let us know that this was going to be potentially possible. Your honesty is unparalleled, and it's turning out to be exactly as he said. Dear God.
It's very stinky around him. It's.
Oh, God. I got to tell you, the irony that this will be the thing that loses him more votes than the fact that he stole classified documents and cheated on his wife while she was nursing their 5-month-old. There's a bunch of voters out there who are like, yeah. Let's just say, I'm just gonna call it that if the ballots were scratch and sniff, Trump is gonna lose in a landslide. Unless, of course, he'll get Ted Cruz's vote because he's obviously a Trump fart sniffer anyway. So, this is, fresh air is his kryptonite.
Putrid odor in the courtroom, and that Trump's lawyers are like repulsed by the scent and the smell. And I'm not just saying that to be like, oh, funny. I'm actually, we have good sources there. And I'm hearing it from actual credible people.
And they're hearing it from Trump's ass. God damn.
That as he's kind of falling asleep, he is actually passing gas. And that his lawyers are really struggling with the smell. I think,
Your Honor, my eyes are watering. If I could we open a window, Your Honor? My client cannot jump, so it's not like he's going to jump out the window. It's not a Ted Bundy situation, Your Honor. If we could, God, it burns like it stings. My eyes are literally stinging right now. I can't. Oh God, that's just horrifying. I'm gonna. Oh, it's just.
I think you'll actually start to hear more of that, but.
Uh-huh. How many fucking bathroom breaks is he gonna have to take to just, like, they're gonna have to bring in Walt Nauta to clean the chair? Oh.
They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately.
Again, from real credible sources. Now, take it for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm. Signs that he's got weapons of mass destruction. He's got chemical and biological weapons. I'm going to take it for that.
They may be going off the record, on background and telling me that because of, it's the Midas touch, and they think that we want to hear that. So you could judge it how you want to judge it. But real credible people.
I got to tell you, no. I got to say, if Midas touch is hearing it, it's real. Because if somebody called me and said it, they might think that's something I want to hear. I wouldn't want verification, because who wants actual verification of that? That's the unfortunate part. But in the case of Ben and those guys over there, they're way more cautious than I am. They don't even say fuck on their network. So they're, believe me, if it's what's the phrase? If it's squeaking out over there at Midas touch, if it's making its way past the gas the sensors, that it's probably too real. And it's more in this category. Oh. Thank you, Ali Osher. Yeah, the bills are going to pass tomorrow. The Ukraine funding bill is going to pass tomorrow. Israel aid and whatever the third one was, Taiwan. They're all going to pass tomorrow. And nobody gives a fuck what Matt Gaetz cares about any of this shit. They're done. Trump's done. They're done. There's this purge happening. They're aware that Trump is over. And again, the irony that this motherfucker will eventually lose more votes because people hear true, verified people close to him talking about him shitting in the courtroom. Yeah. Yeah. Is it? And I gotta see. Is it? Let's see. Trending. Let's see. Taylor Swift push-ups for Suits, Title IX. Tyler Perry Watcher, Friday Feeling. The Aid Ukraine Now is in there. Presidential immunity, because today is the case this is the case that Donald Trump should pray he loses. The Supreme Court case about presidential immunity. If he got what he wanted, Biden could kill him and never go to jail for it. It's the stupidest fucking thing. Are you out of your mind? I understand why some dude would actually would fear, his or would use it, would fight for that ability so that he could use it, while he's in office to get at his enemies or whatever. But when you're out of office and you're saying that your biggest enemy in the world is the president of the United States, you want to limit their power as much as fucking possible. It's one of the reasons why we have a democracy. Jesus Christ. Like, we don't want to go back to where we choose leaders by beheading. This is just dumb. It's ridiculous. Like, that's how, if you want to define how fucking stupid Trump is that he wants Biden to have unlimited immunity to do whatever, to make every bad decision he thinks. So let me get this straight. You think Biden believes that you're aligned with Russia or Saudi Arabia and that those are our enemies, and therefore he kind of has reasoning to take you out, right? He kind of has a good reason to kill you, I guess, right? That would be the idea. And you're fighting for his right to do this? Are you fucking dumb? Again, I get it if you're trying to do this while you're in office. I think it's mistaken because you're not always going to be in office. But if you're really trying to tell me that this son of a bitch it has any idea, or well, any genuine belief, I would say, that Biden is out to get him, that he would want Biden to have this kind of power, or I mean, it's never going to be him again, and he knows it. He's got to know it, or he wouldn't be falling asleep and shitting himself during jury selection. And yes, indeed, Andrea, I did call it. I said I need to find that tweet and go, this aged well. Mm-hmm. So, real quick, yeah. So apparently, Trump farting is not trending yet, but it will be. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Chris Kennedy, I think Joe Biden is the RFK of this generation. Wow, shit. Yeah, the Kennedy family are all coming out to support Joe Biden. This is Chris Kennedy making a statement, and he's saying RFK Jr. facts. Chris Kennedy, I think Joe Biden is the RFK of his generation. That's a big sell from people talking about their dad or their uncle. That's what the family has come to on this. Yeah. Yeah, there. Here, I'll show you. Hold on. The entire Kennedy clan, except for one.
My name is Joe Kennedy.
I'm Carrie Kennedy.
Troy Kennedy.
Kathleen Kennedy Townsend.
Chris Kennedy. And I'm here to proudly endorse Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
Our future is on the ballot in a way in which we haven't seen in generations.
The only way to win this election is for everybody to go out and vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
When I think of modern politicians in our country in this century, I think Joe Biden is the RFK of his generation.
Believes in democracy, believes in human rights, believes in the freedoms.
This is a president who embodies the Kennedy legacy.
My name is Joe Kennedy.
I'm Carrie Kennedy.
Troy
There you
Kennedy.
go. And by the way, Carrie and Chris both have I guess, I don't know if it's genetic proclivity or what have you, for the vocal paralysis issue. She has it worse than Chris does, and RFK Jr. has it worse than anybody, but they have this issue with vocal paralysis. I don't know quite why. It seems to be genetic to that particular generation especially. But a huge deal. Like a huge deal. You think more LBJ? Why? Because you think his penis is that big? Wow. All right, sure. Don Fardo. Oh God. Don. Okay. Oh, and this was the other story that came up. Breaking MAGA congressman House ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz' underage sex trafficking expands to include possible use of illegal drugs at Florida parties. It was bound to happen. Just so you know, this is breaking. Occupy's putting this up here, but sources familiar with the House Ethics Committee. Whoops, let me move this around. Sorry. Investigation say that they're digging for the truth about the drugs used because Gaetz allegedly used them after he had already joined Congress. According to these sources, the committee has obtained a sworn written statement from a woman insisting that she saw Gaetz at a party in 2017 where MDMA and cocaine were being abused. Joel Greenberg talked about the fact that they used ecstasy with this underage girl, this child, the 17-year-old that they had sex with. She was under the influence of ecstasy when this happened. Certainly there was no natural ecstasy, because if you've seen Matt Gaetz's face, you can understand why people would have to take a drug called ecstasy to experience it anywhere in his vicinity. It's not actually going to happen. Some of us create it as a natural do, as it were. She also claims the young woman who Gates allegedly had sex with was 17 when she was present at the party. The witness says the woman who was a minor at the time was naked at the party. The more the committee digs, the more disturbing the story comes. Good Lord. You would have to be on drugs. I mean, I think that's... you'd have to be high as fuck to have sex with that dude. That's like the angriest Butthead has ever been. I just gotta say, if you have lips that small, like, never yell. Yeah, you look like a butthole. Yeah, that's fucking gross. So good news, and that will happen. Also, another Republican has announced that they are not going to seek re-election, bringing the number to 20, I believe, of people who are up, who are in districts that are, winnable, perhaps. Yep. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah. Oh. Now now when stories have come out about Trump possibly shitting his pants in court, because I'm sorry, I will not assume that it is what's happening is just air. But when Maggie Haberman puts it this way, kids, uncharacteristically messy. Okay, first of all, characteristically messy, I would say, wouldn't you? I think this mess is very much in character. Yeah. Trump seen napping for a third time in 4 days. That's because they didn't have court on Wednesday. I guarantee he was just as knocked out then, too. Sleepy Don, shitting his pants is a farty Don, sitting there all day long and farting his way through court. Oh. I was having wait, I have an idea. Nope, I lost it. I had it for a second. Wait, it's coming back. Nope, that was not an idea. It was the other thing. It's called, the name of it's on the tip of my tongue. No, that's not, although we can all taste it. Eagle-eyed, I don't know why they're saying this on, eagle-eyed New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman once again caught former President Donald Trump dozing off during a hearing related to his hush money trial in New York on Friday. In an update posted in the New York Times live blog of the proceedings, which, by the way, start at normal and then smear off as she loses consciousness from the smoke. She wrote that Trump appears to have fallen asleep in court again, and then added that it happened several times just now as his eyes were closed for extended periods and his head dropped down twice. Haberman has also done some observation about his appearance. His hair is uncharacteristically messy, like the wind hit it on the way into court. Multiple reports this week have observed him nodding off. Let's check in, shall we, on the live blogging? Uncharacteristically messy. He's just kind of lost interest. I don't know. He's got the Ford Fairlane fender happening there. It's a little damper and crustier than normal, but whatever. He's got a big process apparently. Pull it forward, swipe it across. That there's this big. He learned it from Benny Hinn. Here's the latest. 5 more alternate. And by the way, they have they've got 6 alternate jurors, which is, I think, the full jury, right? 12 New York jurors have already been selected to serve as jurors. Now they're Friday, bringing the total to 6 alternates and rounding out the panel. So that's it. They've officially got a jury. Hey, we got a jury. And it's Friday, and we're not even done with the day. It just started, and they're fucking moving. Trump's complaint yesterday was that they were moving too fast, like his bowels. I'm sorry. That was not right of me. But we're just getting wind of this now. And quit it. You guys stop. This is serious, okay? I don't know. Like, he's on it. He's wide awake. He's sharp as a tack. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to stop. So, yeah, a young man set himself on fire after dousing the flame in Collect Pound Park across from the courthouse. The onlooker screamed. Bright orange flames engulfed the man in the area. And park cordoned off for Trump supporters. Around 2 dozen of them. Heated flames with Burning Man could be felt. Man threw multicolored pamphlets in the air before it was unclear what the motivated his action. Several police officers rushed to the scene. Detectives arrived to smother the man. Had collapsed. His coat to extinguish flames. 2 dozen of what the hell? The man was still moving. His officers knelt beside him and asked his name. He was loaded into an ambulance, taken away. Good Lord, this just happened. Some dude 5 minutes ago set himself on fire outside the courthouse. No Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber references allowed. It's likely that some part of the afternoon will be devoted to hearing known as the Sandoval hearing, right, which will determine what questions they can ask Trump on cross-examination, what you can bring up, what you can't bring up. Yep, 3:15 Sandoval. There you go. So 3:15 today. Oh, the jury questionnaire. Yeah. Shall I fill it out? Here, can I? All right, 1. Without telling us your address, in what neighborhood do you live? The Upper West Side. Where the hell are you from, Johnny? The Upper West Side. How long have you lived there? Well, I wouldn't call it living. It's more surviving. Yeah. Are you a native New Yorker? No, I am not Algonquin. I'm kidding. I'm a direct descendant of Daniel Day-Lewis's character in Gangs of New York. If not, where did you live previously? I live every place I set foot. All right. What do you do for a living? Well, I have the only job that's a matter of opinion. I'm a comedian. See, an actor can be an actor even when they're not acting, but a comedian is only a comedian when they're funny. So, and even when you're on stage doing it, you can be a bad actor or a good actor, but if you're not funny, you're not a comedian at all. It's a rough spot. I've chosen, even in a world where Neil Young is a singer, and right, and a guitar player, in music, all bets are off. Where right, but I gotta say, when you get down to comedy, by the way, I found this shirt. This is my old stand-up shirt. I had one of these, and I found it and washed it, so I threw it on today because I was working out in it, because I work out in my own merch at home because I don't care if it gets sweaty. But this is comedy is not cool, and this is specifically is a gas mask, and these are the Chinese character for Ben Dan, which means moron. And everybody puts like gas masks and Chinese characters on their shit to try and look cool. And so I thought I'd make one that is kind of an inside joke. Now you know. Anyways, yeah. And by the way, the later on, I was able to find a do not equal sign in this font, which it did not have before. I had to make one. But I made one, so comedy does not equal cool is really what I'm saying. But the idea is that, cool is the antithesis of comedy, in my opinion. You have to be willing to look like an ass. You know what I mean? You can't just worry about being a badass all the time. You have to don't be afraid to look a little silly on behalf of humanity. So, all right, now you know. Who is your current employer? Me / my chat room. How large is your current employer? Well, I wouldn't judge. I can't see them, but I think they seem, variant levels of fit and mobile. Are you self-employed or own your own business? Yes. Who is your prior employer? Every comedy club with a capacity over 500 in the country? And also future and current employer? I don't know how to answer that. I'm dead in the water. I would not even be able to be in here. I would go, excuse me, I need some help, and they would just throw me out. What is your educational background? For example, high school diploma, college degree, graduate degree, high school diploma. With some university extension study and subscription to Brilliant that I actually use. What? You're my boss and you do not pay for my jury duty. That's true. I'm not allowed to have jury duty. My boss won't give me the time off. Sorry. Are you married? No. Have you ever been married? No. Do you have any children? Yes. If you are married or living with another adult, what does that person do for a living? They have a burlesque show that is a hit on the Vegas Strip called Ladylike at the Virgin Casino, and it is wonderful. And even though it's a burlesque show, I'm so proud of her at the end of it. Every time I watch it, I nearly go to tears. I'm not kidding. If you have adult children, what do? I don't, that I know of. I'd love to find out. Do you know something I don't? It's not out of the question that I have a child over 20 years old. I've been a touring comedian since I was 16 years old for all practical purposes. Yeah. I may or may not have a child in Australia. We don't know. I can't really say. I'm not getting any phone calls back, but I'm just saying it's a distinct possibility. If you meet somebody down there who's, shortish but not diminutive, but attractive and charming, and it is a brunette with brown eyes, it's possible. Let's see. What do you like to do in your spare time? Spare time. Oh, that's adorable. What's that? What's spare time? If you have a child and you've turned all your hobbies into jobs, you don't have any spare time. I guess what in terms of what you're talking about, I pass out. All right. Do you have any interests or hobbies? Any? Any? You're fucking kidding me, right? Any? Quiz me. Yeah. Do you participate in any organizations or advocacy groups? Yes, I am a Freemason. And I also do things for Humane Society and a couple of animal charities. Have you ever served on a jury before? No. If you did, please tell us. Without telling us the verdict, please tell us whether the jury reached a verdict. Okay, I don't know. Well, it's true. I did serve in sort of a public jury watching the OJ trial. I was part of the group that went, he's so fucking guilty. What the hell? All right. Which of the following print publications, cable and or network programs, online media, such website, blogs, social media platforms do you visit, read, watch, read aloud? Read aloud? New York Times, USA Today, New York Daily News, Huffington Post, CNN, MSNBC, Google, Facebook, X, TikTok. No. Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Newsday, Washington Post, Fox News, Newsmax, MSN, Yahoo, Truth Sinkhole. I do not follow the news. Other. Okay. I can check off all these except TikTok. Do you listen to or watch podcasts? If so, which ones? Are we just talking political ones or the naughty ones? I'm kidding. No, I don't. Do you listen to talk radio? If so, which programs? If I'm on tour in the South, I listen to AM preachers because it makes me angry and I'm funnier if I'm a little pissed off. That's true. Have you a relative or a close friend ever been a victim of a crime? Yes. If so, please briefly tell us what happened. You, a relative or a close friend, ever been a victim of a crime? Okay. I mean, he's can I have 4 working sheets of paper? We'll start with Tammy Ambergy in my fourth grade class. Her mom hired 2 dudes to kill her dad. That qualifies, right? I had my car stolen while I was watching Howard's End on a date. Let's see, what else? I've been in several fights that involved a couple that had bones broken, none of my own, thank you very much. And I was stabbed once in the lower abdomen. What else? Yeah, that's top of my head. I mean, I've had friends who are dead. So yeah. Have you, a relative or a close friend, ever been employed by a law enforcement agency, for example, the police, FBI, district attorney's office, Department of Corrections? You, a relative? Yes, my uncle was in the FBI, and my rest his soul, and my cousin's a marshal. And I have what else? District Department of Corrections. No. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Have you, a relative, close friend, ever been employed by a federal, state, or local government, including but not limited to the state of New York? How close? It says close friend. So, I mean, I like to think of Glenn Kirshner as a close friend. We got a bunch of people running our circle, of course. Have you, a relative or a close friend, ever been employed in the accounting or finance field? Absolutely not. Have you, a relative or close friend, ever had any education, training, or work experience in the legal field, including but not limited to practicing criminal or civil law? Training, yes. I mean, I've had to read more briefs and law just doing my live stream show than anybody I know personally that isn't a professional lawyer. So yeah, me. Jesus Christ. Have you, a relative or close friend, ever experience or interaction with criminal justice system, including a police officer or other type of law enforcement agent? Yes, I have had multiple speeding pullovers in my time, 2 tickets, and then I once had a cop see that I was speeding and use his speaker to tell me to slow down. It was very nice of him. I appreciated it. He didn't want to get out of his car. I think it was because it was raining, but I listened to the instructions and it was lovely. Yeah. So it was an experience. It was fine. I mean, when I was a teenager, I encountered cops that were dicks, but I was a teenager. They should be a dick to teenagers. We're impulsive. There you go. The jury protectors answers Hal Sparks and the question about who they listen to. Yes, Carl, I should be on the under other. If you put Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, you're going to get kicked off the jury by the defense immediately. They're going to use their last 4 automatic bounces for those. Okay. Do you, a relative, a close friend, have a pending criminal case? No. Do you have any political, moral, intellectual, or religious beliefs or opinions that might prevent you from following the court's instructions on the law, which might slant your approach to this case? No. Do you have any political, moral, intellectual, or religious beliefs or opinions that would interfere with your ability to render a verdict in this criminal case? No. Do you have a health condition that might interfere with your ability to be here on appointed days or times or otherwise prevent you from serving as a juror? No, not that I know of. I mean, I'm allergic to being struck by lightning, but I think everybody is. I need to go on the Harland Highway podcast? Well, tell them, because I'll go on. I don't know what that is, but sure. Without telling us the name, damn it. Do you take any medication that would prevent you from being able to concentrate or pay attention during the proceedings or during the deliberations? Yes, I take an anti-venom against sharding that keeps me awake in rooms filled with human excrement and fecal matter in the air. It's a defensive measure for riding in the New York subway. And but I think it will help in this case. Okay. No, I'm not. Court proceedings normally end around 4:30 in the afternoon, though on rare occasion we might work beyond that. Would your schedule and responsible permit you to work later if you're absolutely necessary to complete the day's work? Yes. I'm sure my son would not mind playing VR a little bit longer before dinner. Do you practice a religion that would prevent you from sitting as a juror or any particular weekdays or weeknight? Oh, I see. For Sabbath or whatever. Not the whole judge not lest ye be judged thing. I think that would probably... Is that going to be a problem, Your Honor? Is judge not lest ye be judged? I mean, I'm a juror. It doesn't say juror not lest ye be jurred. So, okay, I'm fine. Never mind. We're good. Can you give us assurances that you'll be fair, impartial, and not base your decisions in this case upon a bias or prejudice in favor of or against a person who may appear in this trial on account of that person's race, color, national origin, ancestry, gender identity or expression, religion, religious practice, age, disability, sexual orientation, or political views? Absolutely. I only want people to go to jail for the crimes they commit. I don't give a rat fuck about any of those details. And it's very important to me that I not be involved in a case, even if I fucking hate the defendant, where I create a precedent that would send another innocent person to jail, right? Even if I felt like they were guilty and I was slanting it because I just don't like them. I don't think they proved the case, but I think they're guilty because but I can't prove it, but I don't like the person. I don't want that to be the standard by which people are put in jail, so absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I would probably be more particular in a case where somebody like Trump was in front of me, for this kind of thing than if it was just the average citizen, right? Because I wouldn't want to also give him room to go, obviously they hated me because they couldn't be impartial and I should be able to get myself out of this, or I should be able to appeal, right? Right, okay, so can you promise to guard against allowing stereotypes or attitudes about individuals or about groups of people referred to as an implicit bias influence your decision? Yes, absolutely. Have you, a relative or a close friend, ever worked for a company or organization that is owned or run by Donald Trump or anyone in his family? No. No. Even if I knew somebody who worked for his company, that doesn't mean it was owned or run by him. I don't believe it. Anyways, I can be excused. Okay, sorry. I should have just stopped it. No. Have you, a relative or close friend, ever worked or volunteered for a Trump presidential campaign? No. Have you ever attended a rally campaign event for Donald Trump? No. Are you signed up for, have you been signed up for, subscribe to or follow any newsletter, email, listserv run by or on behalf of Mr. Trump or the Trump? No. Do you currently follow him on social media? Or have you done so in the past? No. I'm on Toot Sinkhole, but I don't think I don't think I follow him on there. Unless I just did it so that I could post, like he makes it that way. But I don't think so. I think I just look at what it says on there, whatever. Okay. Have you, a relative, close friend, ever worked or volunteered for any Trump? No. Have you ever attended a rally or campaign event for any anti-Trump group or organizations? Anti-Trump? No. I've gone to like Democratic groups or organizations, but they're not anti-Trump. Are you signed up for, have you ever been signed up for, subscribed to or followed newsletter, email letter run by on behalf of anti-Trump group or organization? What do you mean, Lincoln Project? Do I follow them or I just look at their shit when it comes up? I don't think you even have to follow them. Okay, fine. No. Do you currently follow any anti-Trump group or organization on any social media site, or have you done so in the past? No. Have you ever considered yourself a supporter or belong to any of the following? The QAnon movement? Fuck, I'm out. No. The Proud Boys? Oath Keepers? 3%. Boogaloo Boys or Antifa? No. No, I have not. Do you have any strong opinion or firmly held beliefs about whether a former president may be criminally charged in state court? Well, I will take it as, he's here. It's not up to me. So no, that wouldn't be a strong opinion, I guess. I would defer to the court's opinion, and the fact that he's here means that's not part of my decision. Okay. Do you have any feelings or opinions about how Mr. Trump is being treated in this case? Any? I mean, truthfully, since I have never seen someone of his wealth or a former president ever tried for this, I have no litmus to base my belief, like if I thought he was being treated with kid gloves versus harshly, I have no basis for that. Your Honor, though, I must say, I personally, and I'm sure many of the people in the courtroom share this, I believe opinions are like assholes. If you tell me you don't have one, I know you're full of shit. So, that's a Sparksism. You're welcome. All right. Release about the former president or the facts that he is current candidate for president that would interfere with your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? No. Have you read or listened to audio of any of the following books or podcasts by Michael Cohen or Mark Pomerantz? If so, please let us know. Disloyal Memoir, Mea Culpa, Revenge, or People versus Donald Trump. I have not. Those are, I might own this one, but I did not have a chance to get to it. I think I might have used it for reference. I usually get these for reference, not to read them in their narrative form, to go check up on stuff. So I'll own them in ebook, either as on a Kindle or on my Apple Books. And if something's in a story and I need to go research it, I will go do a word search. But no, in this case, I have not done that. Defendant in this case has written a number of books. Have you read or listened? Your Honor. States facts not in evidence. He has not written any of those books. He had ghostwriters. Just saying, he hasn't written a single book. He's never written a book. I would need evidence that he's even read one. Is that a typo? Right. If so, which ones? Well, since he's never written a book, no, I've never written a book. Even if I had read the books attributed to him, I have never written or listened to a book by him. And I think I did read Art of the Deal back in high school. It was hilarious. Do you have any opinions about it? Not in a good way. Do you have any opinions about the legal limits governing political contributions? Yeah, I defer to whatever the FEC says. My opinion is that there is a law and you shouldn't break it, I guess. Does that qualify? Can you promise to set aside anything you may have heard or read about this case and render your verdict based solely on the evidence presented in this courtroom and the laws given to you by the judge? Absolutely, because if I don't, then in future it can be used against people who don't deserve to be mistreated, and so I have an obligation to the system itself, not to the single defendant in this particular case. I wouldn't scuttle our entire, jurisprudence system just for this motherfucker. Oh, I'll see myself out. Sorry. Should have called him this motherfucker. God, that's I get you every time. Can you give us your absolute assurance that you will refrain from discussing this case with anybody in any matter, or from watching, reading, or listening to any accounts of this case during the pendency of the trial? That's really up to my employer. That would be up to the chat room. I don't know that you guys would give me time off for 8 weeks to watch this thing and participate in it without talking about it at all. I mean, granted, I would have a shit ton of stuff to talk about otherwise. I just couldn't bring this up, I guess, right? But if I came in and I looked like I'd been vomiting and my eyes were bleeding, you'd go like, the sharding stories are true. See, Hal's biased judge. You guys are trying to get me kicked off. I knew it. All right. The United States Constitution provides that the defendant has no burden to introduce any evidence or to testify in criminal case. That's the Fifth Amendment protection, absolutely. If Mr. Trump chooses not to testify or to introduce any evidence, can you give us your assurance that you will not hold that against him? Yeah, I mean, it's up to the state to prove their case. Is there any reason, whether it be bias or something else, that would prevent you from being fair and impartial if you were selected as a juror for this case? No. I could be fair and impartial even if I have a presumption before I entered the courtroom about someone, because I would intentionally leave those presumptions at the door because I don't want to scuttle our system. I care enough about our system that if they didn't prove it, I would have to go, they haven't proved the case. I need these details to prove they committed a crime, and the prosecution hasn't met that burden. Because I don't want somebody else going to jail or being sentenced to death or losing their livelihood or whatever based on the idea that you couldn't meet the burden. There you go. The prosecution is requesting fans. If I can, hold on. Today's episode of Court TV is brought to you by Glade Linen Pop-Ups, getting rid of those stubborn smells wherever they might be. Dear God. Hold on, I have to quit it. Don't make me open my thing. I was on a roll. There we go. Glade Linen Scented. If you're in court and you need to clear the air, nothing helps like a Glade pop. You might need a mop as well. Pop-ups are good, but they're not very absorbent. It's all I'm saying. It's just not. Okay, it's just limited in what it can do. Okay, what are you asking of us? Okay, we deal in smells. We don't clean up on aisle 3. And scene. So yeah, so that I think number 42, Your Honor, does the stench count? Is there any reason, whether it be bias or something else, that would prevent you from being fair and impartial if you were selected as a juror for this case? Yes. To quote Agent Smith in The Matrix, it's the smell. I can feel it in my nose. Called it for the record. Oh, I went over again. This is what happens when we get such a great conversation with Rob, and then we go into the second hour, and there you go. Let's see. Do we have any other things on my way out? Nope. Environmentalists say to RFK Jr., honor our planet, drop out. Right. Oh, and by the way, Mark Levin thinks Trump is black. We'll deal with that later on today. He thinks Trump is our first black president. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I know. They said about that. I know Obama. Yeah. According to Mark Levin, Trump is our first black president. They just keep printing the fucking hits. Oh God, it's just so. It's never gonna end. It's just gonna always be shitty. Oh, and do I wait till this afternoon to talk about his what he said when he entered court today? I think so. We'll cover it today because I think he said something on his way in. Because right now, honest to God, like if you look at the live feed that they have, I'll show you. I mean, I think the real story here. Look at New York. That's fucking terrifying. I mean, the murder, the mayhem. I mean, can you guys hear me over the fire trucks, ambulances, and SWAT teams yelling, go, 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 go? Get out of the, run for your life, balding accountant dude in backpack. Why are you, get him, go tell him, why is he out? He doesn't even have a sword. Why are you guys, those officers, why are you not tackling those people? Because if they're either victims of crimes or perpetrators. There is no one else out. He's talking to someone. Get him. Listen to this. Even the birds are terrifying. Hashtag RIP New York. Look at that. It's brutal. People sitting there, doing sitting things. You can also hear, I believe, photographers in the background. It's just awful. It's just awful. Also, I don't know if, did they show this dude who tried to, were they filming when this asshole tried to set himself on fire? Or they stop it. This is earlier. Jump in here. This is probably where it happened. Yep. Terrifying. Obviously, chat room. I'm going to let you guys go. I'll see you guys this afternoon. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. CNN showed it. Jesus Christ. I'll see you guys this afternoon. We'll have more to talk about, but don't set yourself on fire. It doesn't help. Doesn't work. Does not work. It does not work. If you care that much, you're worth more alive as a constant voice. You setting yourself on fire will never stop whatever you're trying to stop. Not ever. I'm just saying. It never has. It really never has. Like, nobody has ever stopped whatever the fuck they were trying to do by setting themselves on fire. I'm serious. And if you care that much about it, and it's meaningful to you, then for fuck's sake, stay alive and be a vocal advocate. And if you can't speak, write a book. And if you can't write, learn to sign. Dictate it to someone else that way. Draw pictures of peace. There's so much you could do besides doing yourself the fuck in. And that goes for everybody. Don't do yourself in. Anybody. The world's better with you in it, even if you suck right now. I'd rather have people who suck right now, who figure it out later, and they're like, boy, I'm glad I didn't do myself in so I can teach people how to, get through hard times. That's reason enough. Never, not ever. Unless you're an Epstein type, in which case, no, I'm kidding. Unless you're that kind of person and you know you're going to offend again, then I can't. Okay, no, I'm kidding. All right, anyways, just don't. Do not. Don't. Just turn yourself in at the nearest penitentiary, if that's the case. So, anyways, love you guys. Talk to you later. Where did my hand go? Does it go off screen? I'm reaching into you, chat room. You don't want to know what I'll pull out. So, love you guys. I will see you later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I gotta finish doing the show stuff for later on. Thank you for the super chat, Karen. By the way, thank you guys for the super chats and the support and the follow, and thank you for the gifted subs, Arizona Sunflowers. Bless you for that. See you guys later. Take care of yourselves and okay, bye.
We had to vaccine. We had a wet vaccine. We had a wet vaccine. Don't touch my hands because they're dirty.
Asshole.
He can do things with his tongue you wouldn't believe. Purge the anti-Semitism and pro-terrorism. What you doing? Heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your. Our army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. PP2. Heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your. Here I am like an idiot. First new branch of the U.S. Armed Forces in 75 years, Space Force. Not since the Air.
Dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
You could say it's a back door, but I call it a smart door.
All right, I'll stop.
I felt really good almost after taking it.
Action replays in magnified fortune. Michigan gave us Motang, gave us Motown, gave us the Mustang. They said, oh.